Most financial firms, the top tier of financial or accounting firms, have great diversity programs in place and are trying to do the right thing in terms of getting more Latinos and improving the pipeline. But at the same time, these companies have very specific pipelines of colleges where they go to get their talent. Now, if they go to, let's say, certain colleges where the Hispanic population is very low, and in terms the undergraduate population in that college is even lower, and then if you look at business majors is non-existent, then how can companies get about that hurdle of, yes, we're trying, but if you keep going to the same pipeline, you're going to continue to get the same results. How can we make a business case to look at other opportunities, look at other pipelines, and see the gems that we can find there?
Yeah, it's great. That's a great question. Financial firms have two basic challenges related to that. First of all, you're right, they're fishing in all the wrong ponds, right? They want diversity, but they keep going to all the places that they went to school. And the fact of the matter is, for them to replicate that experience, they're going to run into people just like themselves, right? So they might all say, oh, one of my best friends was black. But I mean, that doesn't matter, right? Because there's like one of them, and to your point, they probably weren't a finance major. That's one point. The second is that when you find similarly situated people, and for some reason financial institutions still like things like SATs and what school you went to and all that. But the second challenge they have is that when they find people who are similarly situated, they don't want to work on Wall Street. So I was a trustee on a Robert Twigo Foundation. And Robert Twigo Foundation, what they did was they found the smartest, best kids, mostly African American and Hispanic, got them to the Ivies, got them to score high, got them to do everything else. And our interest rate among them, once they got through all that program, wanting to work on Wall Street was very low. They just didn't see it as a way of life because nobody had ever made the case that you could be successful and that you, as an African American or Hispanic, would be happy on Wall Street. So your question is a good one. There has got to be a way to move away from the traditional ways of qualifying people for financial services, which is you got to go to the schools I went to, and you got to have an SAT score that's high because it's all about quantitative ability. That's how you succeed. Every leader I ever met at Lehman Brothers that was any good would not have passed any of the current requirements. They would have had best, but they actually could put sentences together, you know, and sell ideas and concepts. So I think for Wall Street, for financial institutions, it's how do you figure out what's really of value and what correlates to performance, whether it's equity trading, fixed income, whatever you're doing, loans, whatever. And how do you correlate that to a broader base? Because guess what? The place you're fishing is very, very small. Male Caucasians, forget it, right? So you got to get that one right. And secondly, pretty early on in communities, you've got to start talking to people about what it means to work on financial services. If you talk to them about working at a branch of Bank of America, they'll say, I get it. Right. But that's like nothing, right? But when you start talking to them about, you know, working on Wall Street, you got to start talking about working 80 hours, 90 hours in your first 3 or 4 years. But you got to get that sale done. So it's a great question, and in your question was a great answer, which is you're fishing in the wrong pond. Why don't you go find out what's really of value that correlates to successful performance? You'll find that people rich in culture who are just as smart and maybe didn't get the big math stuff and all that can be good. And secondly, you better get busy educating the demography that's changing on you about the value of working on Wall Street. Because I found those guys. I tell you, I found kids that were Hispanic and African American who I could compare to anybody, and they said, you know what, I don't want to work on Wall Street. I'd say, why not? And it was everything from, you know, it's kind of not my cup of tea to there's nothing about being Hispanic or black related to walking on Wall Street.